stranded in the void. The emergency lights flashed red across the dark bridge of the Vidian research vessel Starweaver, casting eerie shadows that made Kira's scaled skin shimmer. She gripped her console as another tremor shook the ship, the engine failure having left them stranded in the cold void between star systems. "Status report," Kira called out, her tail twitching with anxiety. The Vidian research team had never faced such a serious situation before. Their species was relatively new to deep space travel, and their vessel, while adequate for exploration, was not built to withstand such catastrophic malfunctions. The main screen flickered, displaying the critical damage to their primary drive system. Sparks flew from a nearby console as another system failed. The ship's atmosphere remained stable, but without engine power, they would eventually lose life support. "Sending emergency signals on all frequencies," announced First Officer Trell, his normally bright green scales now pale with worry. Kira watched the communications display with bated breath as the first responses began arriving. But her heart sank as she read each message. Rejections, dismissals, and indifference from the advanced alien civilizations they had contacted. "The Centurion's vessel is too primitive, not worth the resource expenditure," one message read. "The Arcturus Alliance region is outside our jurisdiction. Request denied," said another. "The Syrian Collective cannot assist lesser species. Maintain radio silence." Kira felt despair creeping in as message after message arrived, each a cold refusal from the very species the Vidians had always looked up to. If the most technologically advanced races couldn't or wouldn't help them, what chance did they have? "A new signal detected," Trell suddenly announced, his voice carrying a mix of surprise and confusion. "It's different from the others." The main screen lit up with an unfamiliar message. The language was foreign, but their translators quickly adapted. "This is Captain Robert Mason of the Earth vessel Endeavour. We've received your distress call and are altering course to assist. Hold position, ETA 43 minutes. Please respond to confirm message received." Earth vessel. Kira exchanged confused looks with her crew. She had never heard of this species before. One of the science officers quickly checked their database. Humans, a relatively new spacefaring race, only achieved FTL travel 50 years ago. Kira's first instinct was to reject help from such a young civilization, but another violent shudder through the ship made the decision for her. "Send confirmation," she ordered, and thanked them. The next 43 minutes were tense as the crew worked to maintain critical systems, while Kira researched everything their database had on these mysterious humans. There wasn't much, mostly trade reports and brief diplomatic contacts. They were classified as a developing species with unusual behavioral patterns. When the Endeavour arrived, Kira's breath caught in her throat. The human ship was smaller than she expected, but it moved with surprising grace, its design different from anything she had seen before. Less elegant than Centurion ships, but somehow more purposeful. The main screen activated, showing the human bridge. Kira found herself facing a woman with short brown hair and kind eyes. Dr. Emily Brooks, their xenobiologist. "Starweaver, this is Endeavour," Emily spoke clearly. "We see you've lost engine power and have significant damage to your outer hull. We're preparing a rescue team. Captain Mason is coordinating with our engineers to find the safest way to help you." You're really going to help us?" Kira couldn't keep the disbelief from her voice. "Even though we're strangers, even though our technology is less advanced than yours." The human woman's expression showed confusion, then understanding, and finally, something Kira would later learn was called determination. "Of course we're going to help. You're in trouble, you asked for help, and we can provide it. That's all that matters." Behind Emily, Kira could see the human crew moving with practiced efficiency. Captain Mason, a tall man with graying hair, was already organizing his team, their faces showing focus and resolve, not the disdain or indifference the other species had shown. "Begin emergency docking procedures," Captain Mason's voice carried clearly through the communication channel. "Dr. Brooks, prepare the medical bay for possible casualties. Lieutenant Turner, get your rescue team ready. We got lives to save. People, let's move. As Kira watched the humans spring into action, she felt something she hadn't expected. Hope. But it was more than that. These humans, this young species that barely had starships, were doing what the most advanced civilizations had refused to do. They were coming to help. A surprising response. Lieutenant Michael Turner checked his rescue suit one last time as the Endeavor's docking tube extended toward the disabled Vidian ship. Behind him, Dr. Amanda Wells organized her medical kit, her movements quick but careful. The rescue team waited in the airlock, each member focused on their role. Remember, Captain Mason's voice came through their comms. We don't know much about their biology or ship design. Stay alert and be careful. Copy that, Captain, Michael responded, watching the docking tube's progress. The Vidian ship looked strange to human eyes, its hull having an almost organic quality, with curves and patterns that seemed to flow like water. Dr. Emily Brooks stood next to Michael, her tablet displaying everything they knew about Vidian physiology, which wasn't much. They're reptilian, but their body temperature runs much warmer than Earth reptiles. Watch out for their tails. They use them for balance, and might swing them when stressed. The docking tube made contact with a soft thud, and green lights flashed, showing a good seal. Michael took a deep breath and opened the airlock. The first thing that struck him was the heat. The Vidian ship was much warmer than human comfort levels. Sweat immediately began to bead on his forehead, but his suit's cooling system kicked in quickly. 3 Vidians waited on the other side, their scales shimmering under the emergency lighting, and their large eyes reflecting light like a cat's. The one in front, Kira, according to the briefing, stepped forward cautiously. "Welcome aboard the Star Weaver," she said, her translator making the words sound slightly mechanical. "We were grateful for your help." Emily stepped forward, her friendly smile visible through her clear faceplate. "We're glad we could come. I'm Dr. Brooks, and this is Lieutenant Turner and Dr. Wells. We have more team members ready to help once we assess the situation." Michael noticed how the Vidians watched their every move, their tails swaying slightly. He recognized the look in their eyes. It was the look of people who couldn't quite believe help had actually arrived. "Your engine room," Michael said, keeping his voice calm and professional. "Can you show us?" As they moved through the ship, Michael's trained eye took in every detail. The damage was worse than they'd initially thought. Power conduits hung from the ceiling, and several corridors were sealed off due to hull breaches. "We tried to fix it ourselves," one of the Vidian engineers explained, leading them to the engine room. "But our technology, it's not as advanced as what other species use. We couldn't." "Hey," Michael interrupted gently. "Sometimes the newest tech isn't the answer. Sometimes you need old-fashioned ingenuity and hard work. Let's see what we're dealing with." The engine room was a mess of twisted metal and burned-out systems, but under the damage, Michael could see the basics of the drive system. Different design, same principles. He clicked his comm. "Captain, we're going to need the full engineering team and about 6 hours. It's bad, but it's fixable." "Copy that, Lieutenant," came the response. "Dr. Wells, how are the crew members?" Amanda had been scanning the Vidians with her medical equipment. "Some minor injuries, signs of stress, but nothing critical. Their biology is fascinating, Captain. Their healing rate is remarkable." Throughout the inspection, Michael noticed how the Vidians watched them with increasing curiosity. Finally, one of them, a younger crew member, asked the question they'd all been thinking. "Why did you come?" The others, they said we weren't worth saving. It was Emily who answered, her voice firm. "Where we come from, if someone needs help, and we can provide it, we help. It doesn't matter who they are, or what technology they have. It's that simple." "But you risk your own ship," another Vidian pointed out. "Your own lives." "Calculated risk," Michael said with a slight smile. "We're pretty good at those. Now, let's get your engine running again. Dr. Wells, can you set up a medical station here?" "Captain, we're ready for the engineering team." As the rest of the human crew began arriving through the docking tube, bringing equipment and supplies, Kira watched in amazement. These humans moved with purpose and confidence, but there was something else too. A warmth in their interactions, a readiness to smile or offer a reassuring word. "Your species," Kira said quietly to Emily. "You're different from the others we've met." Emily paused in her work. "Different isn't always bad," she replied. "Sometimes being different is exactly what's needed." Above them, the emergency lights continued to pulse, but somehow they didn't seem quite as ominous anymore. Help hadn't just arrived. Hope had arrived with it. Unexpected ingenuity. The engine room of the Star Weaver buzzed with activity as human and Vidian crews worked side by side. Captain Mason watched from the doorway as Lieutenant Turner directed the repair efforts, his voice steady despite the rising heat in the chamber. "Easy with that power coupling," Michael called out, wiping sweat from his forehead. "These connections are different from ours, but they're just as delicate." The humans had stripped down to their basic cooling suits, while the Vidians moved comfortably in the heat. Dr. Emily Brooks stood nearby, rapidly documenting the differences between human and Vidian technology on her tablet. "Your species adapts quickly," Kira observed, watching as the humans modified their tools to work with Vidian systems. "We didn't expect this level of creativity." Emily smiled. "Humans have a long history of making things work with whatever we have on hand. We call it improvising." A shower of sparks erupted from a nearby panel, causing several crew members to jump back. Michael rushed forward, toolkit in hand. "Power surge," a Vidian engineer shouted, his scales darkening with stress. "We can't hold the containment field." Captain Mason's voice cut through the panic. "Turner, what do you need?" "We need to stabilize that field, but our equipment isn't compatible," Michael replied, his mind racing. "Wait, Dr. Brooks, you said their power systems run on similar principles to our old fusion plants, right?" Emily nodded quickly. "Yes, but Captain, Michael." "The antique," Michael interrupted. "The 21st century fusion stabilizer you were transporting. Do you think it'll work?" Mason's eyes widened. "The museum piece. Sometimes older is better." "Do it." The next few minutes were intense as human crew members sprinted back to the Endeavour to retrieve the old stabilizer. Michael and the Vidian engineers worked frantically to keep the systems from completely failing, while Dr. Wells stood ready with medical supplies, worried about radiation exposure. When the stabilizer arrived, it looked primitive compared to the sleek Vidian technology. The Vidian crew watched with a mixture of doubt and hope as Michael and his team worked to connect it. "This device," one of the Vidian engineers said, "it's so basic." "Basic isn't always bad," Michael replied, making final adjustments. "Sometimes the simple solutions are the best ones." "Ready, activating now." The old stabilizer hummed to life, and for a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, slowly, the warning lights began to fade, the dangerous energy readings dropping to safe levels. The containment field stabilized, and a cheer went up from both human and Vidian crews. Michael grinned, patting the old stabilizer. Sometimes the old ways are the best ways. As the crisis passed, the repair work continued with renewed energy. The humans taught the Vidians about their older but reliable technology, while the Vidians shared their knowledge of advanced systems. It was a strange but effective combination of old and new. "Your people," Kira said to Emily later as they watched the crew's work. "You don't just help, you teach. You share knowledge that shouldn't be hoarded." "Shouldn't be hoarded," Emily replied. "The more we share, the more we all learn." Captain Mason approached them, looking tired but satisfied. "The engine repairs are at 60%. We should have you mobile within a few hours. Lieutenant Turner's team is already teaching your engineers how to maintain the modifications." Kira's voice was soft. The other species, they would never have shared their knowledge like this. They guard their technology jealously. Mason shrugged. "That's not our way. Besides, these repairs are temporary. You'll need to reach a proper shipyard for permanent fixes. We're just helping you help yourselves." As the work continued, something unexpected began to happen. The Vidian crew started sharing their own knowledge, little tricks they had developed, insights into their technology. The humans listened eagerly, taking notes and asking questions. "Look at them," Emily said to Mason, watching the two species work together. "This is more than just a rescue now." Mason replied with a smile. "It usually is. Every time we help someone, we learn something new. That's how humanity has always grown." The engine room, once a scene of crisis, had become a place of learning and cooperation. The emergency lights had been replaced by proper illumination, and the sound of worried voices had given way to technical discussions and even occasional laughter, as Michael demonstrated a repair technique to a group of fascinated Vidian engineers. Michael reflected that this was what humanity did best, not just fixing problems, but building bridges, sharing knowledge, and turning disasters into opportunities for growth. A dangerous threat. The warning came without notice. One moment, both ships were steady in space as the repair work continued. The next, all sensors began blaring. Solar flare detected. Lieutenant Turner shouted from his position at the Star Weaver's newly repaired monitoring station. "Massive radiation wave incoming." Captain Mason's voice crackled over the comm system. "All crews, return to stations immediately. Endeavor, prepare for emergency maneuvers." But Emily Brooks, still working with the Vidian science team, quickly spotted a problem. "Captain, the Star Weaver's shields aren't fully operational yet. They won't survive a direct hit." The solar flare was massive, far larger than any normal space weather event. The radiation would tear through the Vidian ship's weakened defenses like paper. They had less than 10 minutes before impact. "Can we outrun it?" Kira asked, her scales paling with worry. Michael shook his head. "Not with your engines at partial power. You'd need at least an hour to get to safe distance." Captain Mason's face appeared on the main screen, his expression grim but determined. "Dr. Brooks, what if we position the Endeavor between the flare and the Star Weaver? Our shields are at full strength." The Endeavor's shield operator cut in. "Sir, even our shields might not hold against something this size. We could lose the ship." A heavy silence fell over both crews. The Vidians watched in disbelief. Surely these humans wouldn't risk their own destruction to save strangers. The humans looked to their captain, waiting for his decision. Mason's voice was firm. "Lieutenant Turner, coordinate with the Endeavor's helm. Position us directly between the Star Weaver and that flare. Dr. Wells, get all medical teams ready. Both ships might need them." "But Captain," Kira protested, "you can't. Your ship is my responsibility." Mason finished, "Just like your crew is yours. We're not leaving you to die out here." The next few minutes were a blur of activity. The Endeavor moved into position, its larger bulk completely shielding the Vidian vessel. The human crew members worked frantically to reinforce their shields, redirecting every spare bit of power they could find. Emily stayed aboard the Star Weaver, working with Kira to strengthen what defenses they had. Through the viewing ports, they could see the Endeavor's hull beginning to glow as the first waves of radiation reached them. "Why?" Kira asked softly. "Why risk everything for us?" Emily's hands never stopped moving as she worked. "Because it's the right thing to do. Because every life is worth saving. Because this is who we are." The main wave hit with devastating force. The Endeavor shuddered violently, its shields blazing bright enough to blind. Warning systems screamed as the radiation level spiked. Hull temperature critical, shield power dropping, structural integrity at 60%. But Captain Mason's voice remained steady. "Hold. A new alliance." The Endeavor's shields held against the powerful solar flare, saving the Vidian ship and its crew. In the aftermath, the Vidians and humans emerged, shaken but alive. As the crews tended to the damage, Kira found herself drawn to Captain Mason and his bridge officers. The awe and disbelief she had felt earlier had given way to a profound respect and gratitude. You risked everything to save us, Kira said, her voice tinged with wonder. Why? After the way the others dismissed us, I can't understand why you would do this. Captain Mason met her gaze evenly. Because it was the right thing to do. Because every life matters, regardless of species or technology. He gestured around the bridge. This is who we are. We don't turn our backs on those in need, even if it means putting ourselves at risk. Kira shook her head slowly. Your people are truly unlike any we have encountered. The advanced civilizations, they are so quick to judge, to hoard their knowledge and resources. But you, she paused, searching for the right words. You shared freely, you taught us, you came to our aid without hesitation. Emily, who had been listening nearby, stepped forward. That's the thing about humans. We may be a young species in the grand scheme of things, but we've learned that the more we share, the more we all grow. Knowledge shouldn't be hoarded. It should be passed on, built upon, expanded. Kira looked between the human officers, a newfound respect and understanding dawning on her. Then perhaps we have much to learn from one another. Your species has already shown us that being different is not a weakness, but a strength. Over the next few days, as the repairs neared completion, the Vidians and humans forged an unexpected kinship. They traded knowledge and technologies, each fascinated by the other's approaches and insights. Kira, in particular, became enthralled by the human concept of improvisation, the ability to adapt and find innovative solutions with limited resources. You humans are truly remarkable, Kira remarked to Emily as they pored over schematics together. I can see why the other species were so quick to dismiss you. They likely saw your primitiveness as a weakness, when in reality, it is your greatest strength. Emily smiled warmly. That's how we've always grown, Kira, by embracing our differences, pooling our knowledge, and learning from one another. It's how we became a spacefaring species in the first place. As the two ships prepared to depart, Kira felt a bittersweet mix of emotions. She would miss the camaraderie and collaboration they had fostered, the sense of kinship that had blossomed between their crews. But she also knew that this was only the beginning of a new and promising alliance. Captain Mason, Kira said, standing before him and the human officers one last time. On behalf of the Vidian people, I offer our most sincere gratitude. You have not only saved our lives, but you have also opened our eyes to a new way of thinking, of being. We are honored to call you friends. Mason clasped her hand firmly. The honor is ours, Kira. And I have a feeling that this is just the start of a long and fruitful partnership between our peoples. Humanity is always looking for new allies, new perspectives. Who knows what we might discover together? As the two ships departed, their crews waving farewell, Kira couldn't help but feel a surge of optimism. The galaxy had seemed so silent, so indifferent to their plight. But now, thanks to the humans, a new dawn was breaking. And she knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, as equals and as friends.